this Volkswagen image. To open up your image, you can go to File and Open, find the location of that image. In this case, it's probably in your downloads, so check it from there. If not, where you downloaded it from, get it from there. Okay, so mine's is right here. I already have it open, obviously, so I'll skip that. But that's how you find it. You can go and just click and drag it into the Photoshop interface as well, but I just prefer to go File Open. Anyways, guys, we have the Volkswagen vehicle here. And your goal is, well, we're going to learn about masking in different types, and your objective here is to extract the logo from here. Now, what I want to show you in the top left is different types of masking tools. So right here, if I click and hold this one, we have the rectangular, elliptical, single row, single column. I don't really bother with these single column ones, to be honest. I primarily focus on these two. Now, the rectangular mask tool and how the mask tools work, if I have this layer selected, and if I were to click and drag a rectangle, it would mask that area. But since my shape is spherical, an oval, elliptical, it's not the best tool to use is rectangle. So I'm going to change it up and use the elliptical tool for the situation. So depending on the situation, pick and choose what makes sense. Right now I have my rulers viewed. I'm going to press Command R, and for PC users, Control R for the same thing. If you hate shortcuts, go to View and click on Rulers, and then I'll pop up the rulers. What I'm going to do here is not necessarily you need it for this task, but if you click and drag from the rulers down, so what I did is I moved my mouse towards the rulers and clicked and drag a horizontal line. I'll do the same for the vertical. Just move your mouse to the ruler and click and drag, and it'll bring a guideline. Okay. What I did here is kind of created an intersecting point. So with my mask tool selected, now I'm just going to the regular new selection mode. I'll explain these two modes afterwards. I'm just going to click and drag a kind of oval shape that just gets the logo and some color. Now, to get this logo perfectly with this mask would be tricky, okay? So I'm just going to get the overall area and kind of avoid the outside blue areas and just get this one section, okay? Now, these other modes here, if you click on the addition, you can add different shapes to it. You can see it adds onto it, right? I'll press Command Z just to let you know. I'll be using this feature later on, okay? So I have this part selected. What does that mean? Well, you can do a few things with the mask area. Well, in this case, I want you to extract it. Like you could technically get your brush and you could, let me just increase the brush size, and I can paint over this. Notice how the paintbrush only goes into that mask area, okay? Go back to my history. I don't want to do that. Technically, you can go to edit and paste, or sorry, copy the pixels and paste them afterwards. You could cut them. In this case, I don't want that. I just want to copy. And I can paste it. Now I can press Command V, or I can say paste in place. And what it does, it pastes in a new layer. Now, one of the other things you can do that the memory of the computer has, and it's that you want to copy, is you can go to File, create a new document, and there's a thing called Clipboard. Photoshop knows the pixel size of what you just copied on the computer's memory and will make a clipboard just based on that. And what I recommend is you do that, and it makes a new document. Now, you could have, well, in retrospect, make a new document, make sure it's transparent if you like to right off the get-go. Not a big deal. I could have gone to this file and deleted the background layer afterwards, but if you just want to avoid a step, maybe it's better that you use a transparent document. So I'm going to paste it, and I'm going to go edit and paste. It should automatically paste it right in the middle. So the actual document is the size of that. And again, if I were to do it this way, I'll press Command Control V, create my layer and delete it. Or you can click and drag it into the, or you can click on delete. It doesn't matter. Either or. This method obviously saves you a step. Okay. Now, that was masking in regards to masking a shape. I will talk about these lasso tools later. I just want to skip to these series of masking tools: the object selection, quick selection, and magic wand tool. Now, if you can't find this, it's because you got to click and hold. So remember, any Photoshop tool that has a little triangle in the bottom right hand corner means there's other subtools hidden within that category. Okay, so keep that in mind. So I'm going to just skip through and talk about the quick selection and magic wand tool. All right, quick selection, how this works. Now, this is tricky because this quick selection tool is not going to work well with this situation because the silvers and grays and kind of off-whites kind of match the color of the car, of the vehicle. So how the quick selection works, you would want to paint in the area that you want Photoshop just to focus on, okay? But you'll find with this tool, there's too much color variations that are too similar, and they will pick up on each other. So this is not the best tool to use, okay? I'm going to press Command D, okay? You can also go to select or deselect. Control D for my PC peeps out there, all right? So the tool I'm going to use in this situation is the magic wand tool. This is great if you're in a situation where you have a single colored background or a single color that you want to extract. Not the best tool, there's multi-colors. In this case, this is pretty solid color throughout. Now let me explain this tool, how it works. Now typically when you click on this tool, I think the tolerance is 32, I believe. And I'm going to zoom in here and you're going to see that as I zoom in, you can see the small little squares that represent the image called pixels, okay? These little bitmaps or bits of this raster image. Now what I'm going to do here is with the magic wand tool, how it works is usually I have contiguous on. So what this means, if I click on this pixel, the tolerance here at 32, it's going to look for this color and 32 similar colors like it, if that makes sense. Let me back up now. So technically I'm clicking on a single pixel and you'll notice that Photoshop went around and it picked up, but it also picked up some interesting things here. Believe it or not, these pixels kind of fit in the gamut of that 32. So not the best number to use. Maybe I'm going to reduce my tolerance so it only picks up certain colors of this kind of bluish grayish color. So let me go with something like last like 12 or 10. Let me go 10 here. I think I had it originally. Now I'm going to press select and deselect, so Command D or Control D will get rid of the mask. Guys, I really recommend you remember this Control D or Command D shortcut because it saves you. So what I'm going to do is tell the computer to click on that pixel, and you see it kind of limited the amount. Now this is normal mode. Now I'm going to go on to addition mode like I showed you with the marquee tool. Now I'm going to say, hey, let's add on to this area to the overall mask. Now you're probably wondering why it's not picking up this color if that color is similar. Well, I have contiguous on, right? So what that does is it stops once it senses a pixel that's not in that gamut of the tolerance and stops right there. So I'm going to add, and before it goes into it, it stops right here and just stops. So you can always add on by clicking the add-on feature. And believe it or not, if you're on this tool, if you hold shift on your keyboard, it toggles to the addition. If you hold the alt option button, it goes to minus, just letting you know. So if you don't like going back and forth, your call. So in this situation, I could press delete and that would work, but if I wanted to add the other areas and delete them all at once, I can. So here I am, I'm going to click and wow. So the contiguous off. Now just let me show you something with contiguous off here. I'm going to click once. Now the thing is, it looked for that blue, but it looked throughout the full photograph, and there was too much similarities with that color going throughout. So it was better to do this contiguously. So you do it step by step. So with my addition on, I'm saying click this pixel plus that, add that to it, add that, and by all means, guys, this is not the cleanest way to crop an image, but is the fastest way I find, okay, in this situation. Now, going back to the lasso tool. Now I kind of jumped it. I'm going to go back to it now and explain the benefits of it. Now, it has the modes where it's regular, addition, and subtraction mode. So in this situation, like for example, it didn't do the best job on over here. Well, instead of using the magic wand tool and nitpicking in there, I'm just going to manually tell the computer, let's add this, and I'm going to just get my mouse and click and drag this area and loop around and say, add this area to my mask. So you can manipulate any mask using other masking tools. You don't necessarily have to be regulated by the one tool that you're using. You can pick and choose this tool. Like for example, I wanted to use the elliptical marquee tool, and I wanted to add and I wanted to zoom in and I wanted to just do a loop and add this area, it will add to that as well. And it goes to say the same for subtraction. Let me go over here. I'm going to go subtraction tool with my lasso. I'm going to click and drag. Oops. And I'm going to say, hey, this area here, I'm going to click and drag these pixels. I'm going to make a nice loop and say, hey, these pixels I want to minus. All right. And then this area too, this black speck. Oops, sorry. I got to add actually. I apologize. I'm going to add to this mask, this area. So I click and drag a loop and my mask has selected that. So using this method of masking is great. And what you do with it afterwards is up to you. So what I mean by that, let me just add this area to it. Obviously take your time and looking around. Okay. So what I can do in this file, technically I have this area masked. Okay. Now, if you're very happy and you're kind of a get it done one time kind of deal kind of person, then you can do it this way. But listen, there's mistakes here. So like I didn't add this part here. I'm gonna want to add that, but oops, sorry. I'm gonna subtract that area. I apologize. And there's areas here that are not clean, but depending on what you're using the image for while you're cropping it, if you were doing a magazine, I would take the time and use a different method. But if you just want a quick crop and get rid of it and just do something fun for the internet, this is not a bad method. So technically, if I were to click the delete button on my keyboard, it would delete the background and would have a transparent image. Okay. So if you like this method and you're happy with the result, then that's not a bad option. There is another method where you apply a layer mask to it. So let's say add layer mask. Okay. And right now I did the opposite. So what you're going to do is you're going to inverse this. So on the layer mask, press Command I or Control I to inverse the mask. So it's inversed. If you want to, you can go to select and inverse as well. So now I have a layer mask. And if you're familiar with the layer mask from the previous lessons, you know how that it works on the black and white principle. So for example, taking that mask, the image is still there technically. So let me just right click, just disable it for a second. The image is still there. We just kind of use the magic wand tool to really fine tune the mask. So let's re-enable it. And on here, if you want to, you can go and using the black and white method. So for example, if I made mistakes here, I wanted to mask it back on, I get my brush. So I'm gonna type in B for brush. There's my brush. I got my white on. So parentheses, the brackets under the P, I think I described in class, decreases the size. So if I were to brush on white here, it would expose those pixels behind there. Okay. So, and if I were to swap it, I can use black to kind of hide things. So for example, if I were to, let's see, clean up these issues, say I wanted more pixels, I would, oh, I apologize there. If I wanted to clean up these pixels, I would fine tune it. I'm zooming in. And I will delete those by adding black to the mask so it hides the mask. So what I'm doing, I'm adding black to hide the mask. Technically it's still there, I'm just hiding the mask. So maybe this method is better if you started it and you just want to clean it up afterwards. Maybe applying the mask to it. See right here, do I delete that or keep that on? Over here, look at that, missed that gap. So in this case, adding black will hide this area. And if you zoom in, you can really see those features. And if you adjust your brush size, you can get in those pixels and delete them. Okay, press Command 0, Control 0. And the same goes for these pixels here that you may want to include. So let's swap it so the white color's in front. And you can go pixel for pixel and add those pixels back on. You're not adding them, you're just kind of hiding them. Remember, this is a disabled mask, it's still there. And what we did, we used the magic wand tool and some other masking tools. Okay, so from this point, you should have a decent transparency. Before you hand it in, go to image and trim. What this does, there's a lot of negative space here. We'll just get rid of it by saying transparent pixels, all four corners, and it'll remove it. Okay. Technically, you could have gone to the crop tool and said, hey, I want to just crop this way and done it that way. But the other method's a bit more for sure. Okay. Then you're going to save it. File save as, or you can say save. Right now it knows it's a Photoshop file. So, and name it your last name, your first name, and let me double check here. You have PS task. I actually went to the Google Classroom to double check. PS underscore task 1A, and save it in as an original PSD file, because you're gonna. It allows you to save that layer mask if you ever changed your mind and want to clean up even a bit better. Like I just did a rudimentary job of doing it. I obviously spend more time cleaning it up. So task 1 saved, and then voila. And then if you needed to, you can clean it up before you actually save the PNG version. So I'm gonna go file save as and drop down the PNG format right over here. Leave it the same name, obviously, just a different format. And PNG supports transparency. I would just keep this in the large file size. Okay. And voila, on your computer, you'll have those two versions that you will upload. Hopefully this tutorial was helpful and you'll be successful in creating a transparency of this Volkswagen logo. And by the way, I do not promote the support. This is not an advertisement by Volkswagen. Just so happens to be the task at hand, all right?